Let's wire the button. For this, I'm going to need the breadboard, the Uno, the button, a resistor, some long wires, and some short wires. Let's plug the button into the board first. There's 4 legs on the bottom of the button. Make sure they look something like this. If you're missing one of the legs, you'll need a new button. If the legs are bent and they can't get pushed into the breadboard, you'll need a new button. The button should span the middle of the breadboard, such that the legs go in on either side of this center channel. Try to seat it, and once you get it more or less in the holes, check that all 4 are in there and not one leg is not sticking out from the hole, because otherwise it will just bend out, and push straight down. It'll take a bit of force to get it in. Don't be afraid to push hard. You're not going to break it. Notice how it's seated, and check now that the 4 legs are in the holes and none of them are bent outward. These look good. Again, it has to straddle the middle channel of the breadboard. How the breadboard works, again, from the other videos, is in these columns, all 5 of these sockets in one column are connected to each other electrically, but not connected to any other socket on the board. So if I look at this, my column 6, all of A, B, C, D, E are connected. So now if I plug a wire into the same column on this side, it'll be electrically connected to that button leg. Let's connect the resistor next. Doesn't matter which direction we put the resistor in. We'll bend the legs so it forms a U shape. We want one of the legs to go into the ground bar of the breadboard. So on the breadboard, all of this outer row is connected. If you have it oriented so that's the blue, we'll use that for the ground. And then the next row is all connected, but not connected to any other sockets. And we'll use the red line, the row of sockets next to the red line, for the 5 volts. So I want to go ahead and insert one of my resistor legs into the blue row on the breadboard. We'll go in a little ways. That should stick there. And then I want to take that and plug it into the same column as one of the legs from my resistor. In this case, I have the rightmost leg of the button in column 3, so I'll stick the other end of the resistor into there. So again, it goes from the blue row to the column with one of the legs of the resistors. It'll stick out. Feel free to bend it down so it doesn't stick up, as long as it's sticking in the 2 holes. That same column where we have the right leg, the top right leg of the button, and the other leg of the resistor that goes through to connect to the ground, I want to put a wire into that same column of the breadboard, and then connect the other wire. This is going to be our input wire for the button, and that's going to go to pin 10 on the Arduino. Here I've connected the display and the potentiometer already, but you can connect any of these 3 things in whichever order you would like. So I'm going to connect that to pin 10. on the outer rail. If you don't have these numbers here, they will be on the Arduino board here. So make sure it's in number 10. That's the button we have to use, or that's the pin that we have to use for the input. Now we need to connect our 5-volt line to the button. We will take one short wire and we will want to plug it into the column, the leftmost column of the button, which if I've plugged my button to be all the way over would be column 1 here. And I want to plug that into one of these. It doesn't matter which one, but further away from the button is further away from your finger. So I'll plug that in there, and then that's going to get plugged into the red row. And then the final thing is the 5-volt and ground, which must be connected from the Arduino to the breadboard. I've already done this for the potentiometer in the display, but if you haven't done that yet, I need a wire that goes from ground, GND, be labeled on the inside and or the outside, and another wire from 5V, not VN, not 3.3V, 5V. So 5V and ground. The 5V wire is going to go to the red row on the breadboard, and the GND ground wire is going to go to the blue row. Careful, if you had the board oriented the other way, the outer row is red and the inner row is blue, just be consistent. All of the blue should be ground, and all of the red row should be 5 volts. That's wired. We can test it on a finished Arduino game here. I'll show you how it should work. When I press the button, the cannonball should fire. It should not fire while I'm not pressing the button. And if I press the button and hold it, it should refire when the cannonball hits an invader or reaches the top of the screen.